All right. Well, great. I'm glad to have you here in class in the new time. Um, First, I would like to start, okay, by highlighting Emma's assignment on persistence. She wrote a talk, like a sacrament meeting talk. Very, very beautiful. Very well done. And you talk here about writers being classified either as planners or pantsers. Okay, I've never heard of that before. Would you like to explain, Emma, if you have a microphone available, about what a pantser is? Okay, so you don't have a mic available, but you'll try to explain through the chat. Okay, so while you type that, we'll continue a little bit. But this is very interesting because let's see, it says, so a pantser means that you fly off the seat of your pants. Ah, okay, so you basically go off of no idea whatsoever. So you kind of write by the seat of your pants. So you start writing without a premeditated plan ahead. Okay, okay, I can see the term. And is that a successful way of writing? Okay, sounds like me, says Anika. All right. I usually try, I don't plan a whole lot. I mean, not word by word, for example, when I teach the classes, but I have a very general idea of the concepts and the things that we want to cover and the things that we want to say. But sometimes, of course, I deviate from that. Okay. So, but this is related, the things that Emma wrote here in her submission, got 35 points for that, is related to the topic of the class today. Okay. Remember that at the beginning of the class, we mentioned that this is a pilot, so we were going to try different things and make some changes to some things. So if you are, one of the things that we decided to do is if you are taking the class for credit, if you want to get a high school credit from Latter-day Learning for these classes, we decided that we are going to require actually for the students to complete um, one assignment per lesson. Okay, so in previous classes I mentioned, and Nathan, I think remember you asked this again last time, if we needed to do just one assignment per unit, and that is what I mentioned before. But as a school, we decided let's give it a try of actually requiring one assignment per lesson. Okay, so in the lessons you are going to see, like for example, the lesson for this time is the first lesson on the language unit. Okay, and I have here an optional activity or a required assignment. Okay, and you can do actually one or the other, but you need to submit something for the lesson. Okay, you need to submit either the activity or the assignment for the lesson, and in order to get
I need to
credit.
go work on my.
Sorry. So each lesson. Okay. So that is the change that we are going to try to implement. The reason why, other way, we were not getting enough participation actually to give you the appropriate credit that you needed. Okay. Also, another thing that we decided to do and see how this works. Okay, is that um, we are going to have a quiz after each lesson. So you are going to see a quiz coming up after each lesson, and it's going to be due right after the lesson, the day or the day after the lesson. So for example, I'm doing here this language foundation quiz, okay? And you can take this quiz right after we finish the lesson, okay? So the quizzes are very easy. So Nicola says the quizzes never load for me. So that is because I never, at least in my class, I never actually put content in the quizzes before. Okay, so let's give it a try after this lesson to this quiz, the quiz on lesson 20. Okay, and see if that loads all right for you. Okay. Um, each lesson as in topic or literally every lesson. So a lesson is here what we have where it says lesson 20. Okay, so now you don't have to go back and complete all the assignments for the previous lessons. Some of you have done that. Emma has actually been very diligent, and she even though she started kind of later in the class, she was able to catch up with a lot of the assignments. Okay, so that worked out great, and so you don't have to catch up in all the assignments. Okay, but it would be very helpful if you do, especially the more important assignments. Like here in geography, I do want you to complete the assignment on measuring latitude and longitude. Okay, so I really want you to complete that because that is going to be a part of the grade to get credit. And then especially I want you to complete all the lessons that have the individual country report. Okay, because remember that for the country that you selected, you have to do a report on, the mathematical geography of the country. You have to do a report on the atmospheric conditions, climate of the country, a hydrosphere report, lithosphere report for the country. We did also the boundaries unit, and last time we completed the population unit, so you need to also do a population individual country report for that. Okay, so let's see into any of those four to work for me before. Are you meaning what is it that you meant that you couldn't get any of those to work for you before, Haley? More specifically, what is it that didn't work for you? Okay. So some students are taking these classes for credit, and others are taking it not for credit. They are just basically for knowledge. Things in Google Docs in class, I could never get the link. So these are not Google Docs assignments. Okay, so these are not into Google Docs. So what you do here is, let me see if I switch here to the view of how you would see the lesson. Okay, so if I click, let me switch to the student view, because this is whenever you see my lessons usually are in the teacher view. Okay, but so if you see the lesson here, you can go to one of the lessons and you would see the content of the lesson, the links and everything, YouTube video, and then here at the end you would have the assignments. Okay, so for example here the assignment, select one of the countries in Europe to focus your study and project for the year. Okay, If possible, choose one of the countries where your ancestors came from. If you live in Europe, choose a country different from the one you are living in. And then you would go and click here, Submit Assignment, and that is where you would enter the assignment for that lesson. Okay? So, is that all right? So not only Emma says, so not only are we supposed to do the activities or assignments, but also do a separate report. So with language, I would do a separate report talking about the language of Italy. So in the lessons, let me see, in the lessons where we have the individual country, okay, one of the assignments is going to be the report for that country. Okay, yes, so the reports are one of the assignments, so you don't have to do a different assignment, okay? Is one of the assignments, it would be the report itself, okay, for that country. All right. So when we are in lesson 20, all right, but for example, if we go here to lesson 16, all right, let's see if it loads. Oh, because I do have content for that. At least I thought I did. Yeah. Okay, so that everything is clear. So I'm glad, you know, you can catch up with the assignments. I don't have any problem on that, you know. Okay, so here we have lesson 16, all right, and as you can see, you have that one of the activity is to find the latitude of your location. This is one that I want you to actually do, okay? All right, and so we'll do that, the latitude and longitude. How about the ones that are locked? What do you mean by the ones? What ones? Lessons that are locked or assignments that are locked? I don't know that I have logged any assignments. Okay. Sometimes if there is a locked assignment, that means that I have inadvertently put kind of an end date, all right? Sam and I tried to get to like lesson 16 and it was locked and we couldn't get to see anything. Like 16 is locked. Oh, okay. So let me change that right now. Oh, yes. So that is the problem. I didn't know that, but if I put until date, then it locks the assignment. My bad, my very bad. Sorry about that. Okay, so I'm going to take this out. And actually, I'll take also that. So they are all available. Okay. All right, try to go now to lesson 16 and see if it's still locked. Okay, and let me know if it is or not. Okay. Have any of you given it a try to measure latitude and longitude?
What?
Have you tried measuring latitude and longitude using either the sun or stars?
Well, I have, but not the area of my place. I did it for a report once in school. But not for this particular assignment.
Not for this class, okay. And you did it kind of looking at a map, wasn't that the way? Or someone did?
Yes.
Okay, so what I want you is to actually do it the other way, okay, where you try to do it using the stars or the sun. Okay, and so Sanika and Sam said we are going to do it tomorrow as long as it is not raining. So they are in Bolivia. Okay. Yeah, we have had also some good days, all right, and sometimes not too good of a days. Okay. How long are you expecting the report on the assignment to be? Okay, so Haley says that lesson 16 is now unlocked. Success, good deal. I do have a question. How much or how long are you expecting the report on the assignment to be? So I don't, I always tell my students that I prefer quality over quantity. Mhm. Okay, so Benjamin, you can do it again. You are going to try it again. Excellent. All right. So yeah, I prefer. So I don't have a specific length of the assignment. The things that I have seen so far, I think they have been pretty good. Okay, of the length of the assignments. What I'm more concerned is about the quality of the assignments. Okay. Remember that in this latitude and longitude measurement experiment, if you don't get the answer correctly, okay, very, very accurate, that's fine, all right, because remember that error is part of what we are measuring. Yeah, so that's right. So as long as all the elements of the assignment are there and it is written well, okay, that you feel satisfied with it, then it's fine, all right. So I don't have a whole lot of time, so it's not like I'm going to ask you to write a ton of stuff or certain amount of pages. Now, there are some reports, okay, with like some of the country reports that require more pages, like a presentation where you would have one page for this and another one for that and so on. All right. Okay. Good deal. So, well, let's get today with the class here that we have for today. And today we are going to start talking about language development. And let me see, I'm going to start actually with this article. Let's see, where is it? Okay, this article here in Wikipedia on language development. This is not a very easy article to read, okay? So I don't expect you to read the whole article because it's quite long and very so one very involved really at a high written at a very high level. But there are some parts of the article that you certainly can read. So here the introduction, okay, some of the issues here about language development, children versus adults, those are probably parts that you can access and read correctly. Okay, so Rodney says that you are going to do it after class, but it's cloudy. So remember that if you are going to measure latitude and or longitude using the sun, you need to do it at noon. Okay, at noon time of your place where you are, which is not always 12 p.m. Okay, that's right. It has to be at solar noon, all right, which is not 12 p.m. most of the times, all right. So it's where the shadow is the shortest. Yeah, so Emma said I learned that the hard way. Well, maybe tomorrow, yeah. So the one that is easiest to do if you don't have clouds is to see latitude using Polaris. Okay, that is actually pretty accurate. Okay, you don't need to correct it or anything. All right, so let's go back to this issue of language development. Okay, in the family school online, we have actually a lot of very good materials on the different phases of language development, and it explains the different phases and stages and everything. Very, very well written. Okay, so very cute part on that, on the language development. So, but let's see a couple of videos. We're not going to watch the whole video, but let's see some of the stages of language development.
Yeah.
What is that baby doing? What is that baby doing? And is that language development? What do you think? Okay, so Rodney says, to me or you, it's just noise. It's trying to talk, and yes, it is part of language development. Yes, Okay, so yes, the baby. So sorry, she. Yeah, Yeah, she is trying to talk. She's practicing talking, making those noises. Okay.
Well, tell us.
Tell Is it different from crying? What do we call this? These noises that the baby is doing. Cooing. Yes, excellent. Okay. Is it different from crying? Squeals. Yeah, it is different from crying. Okay. And it is really a way for the baby to start developing language skills, start practicing that. When does language development start? When do you think that language development starts? Does it start here at this stage when the babies start cooing? Is it earlier? Is it from birth? When they are born, children start. What happens when they are born? Emma says, I would say before birth. Okay. I actually would like to agree with that. So Annika says, communicate, figuring out how to make certain sounds. My brother could mimic almost any noise he wanted to. He's really started to learn Spanish really well and super fast. Okay. Is that Sam or one of your younger brothers? Oh, he is too. So another younger brother. So you see, it's interesting that the younger children are, the brave. Okay, the younger they are, the easier it is for them to learn another language when they are involved there. So it's interesting. What I found here in the lesson is that it says actually, let's see, it says that language development actually starts when the baby has been growing inside of its mother womb for about 16 weeks. Okay? By this time the ears are formed and a baby can hear his or her mother's voice. Okay? So language development even starts before birth. So before birth, you have that as soon as they start listening, one of the things that they can hear clearly from the inside the womb is the voice of the mother. So it's actually very important even at that time during the pregnancy for the mothers to start talking to the baby and with the baby, okay, and singing and so on, because all those things actually help with the development, the language development of the child. All right. So it starts really, really early. So the second phase is here what is called the cooing phase. That is the video that we were watching. The third phase is...
Dada.
Let's see.
No. Dada. Dada. Say dada. Yeah.
Okay, so that is another phase, and almost all children go also through that phase of saying basically a single syllable, repeating it. Okay, very, very cute. So, the important thing, one of the interesting things, is that children go through that phase without the adults actually prompting that to happen. You know, you hear here in the video how the father says, "Say dada," okay, and then the child repeats that. But it's actually not necessary for the father to model the dada phase, okay. That actually happens naturally and normally in all children, okay. In different languages, it may be slightly different, the sound that the child repeats at this stage, but they are always going to say something, okay, of that. All right. So let's see. So that is the third phase, okay, of the development. The fourth phase is when they start saying single words, okay. Let's say, that's right. So like papa in Spanish, that is very, very common that the children in Spanish would say papa instead of dada. The second youngest of my brothers, Ben, said da when he was only a couple of weeks old in the middle of the night and really loud. He's 6 now and hopefully letting you sleep. Yeah, no, they don't say potato, they say papa. and papa is the word that you would associate at that stage with actually food. Okay. So that is what we would use in Spanish.
Yeah, I was just referring to when I started learning Spanish a little bit. My Spanish teacher put up potato, and he put up the word for potato and the word for dad. And he said it's really similar. You gotta.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, one is papa, the other is papa. Okay, with the accent, just the different inflection there. Okay.
Yeah.
But it is interesting, really, how soon and fast children can learn. Let's see, this video here has another stage of the development of language. Okay, observe what the child is doing and saying. Okay, so what was this child doing as far as language development goes? And what was the difference between the cooing, dada, okay, the dada phase, and this phase? Jen says it's almost like she's playing with Barbies. Annika, I am not going to say what the meaning of it is in other languages, but the older two of my brothers used to call me Kaka because Annika was too tricky. Yeah, so you have a name like Annika and it would very commonly go to that. Okay. My sister couldn't say, my name is Pablo. My brother couldn't say Pablo when he was young, so he called me Panko. Okay. And my sister couldn't say Pablo or Panko, and so he called me Kaka. So Emma says that this baby says...
Yeah. I asked him about that. My cousin next door married a girl from Argentina, and her older brothers were down here, and his name is Marcelo.
Marcelo? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that, but one of his nephews couldn't say that, so he calls him Marshmallow.
Yeah, which is basically just an English word. Okay, it doesn't exist in Spanish, but that is kind of common. So Emma basically says she was trying to communicate in sentences, but since she didn't know how to define the sounds, it became incoherent. So that is what is called jabbering, okay? And so the jabbering stage is when the children start practicing and making the sounds of that language, even though they are not making any sense in any language. Okay, but the idea is that they are practicing the sounds that they hear their parents do. So Rodney said practicing talking like mom or dad. That's exactly right. So he's practicing the talking without making sense. But you can see already the production of sounds that are particular to the language that this baby is learning. Okay, so it is really, really interesting, and this brings me to another kind of side note on this issue. Annika is saying babies can start communicating with sign language before they learn to talk. It worked with the younger two of my brothers. So why do you think that it's easier for children to start communicating with sign language before they start communicating correctly with with talk, with speech? Why would be the case? And by the way, that is actually pretty common to see that happening. Mm-hmm. That's right. Emma says because sometimes the sounds get jumbled and it's easier to do hand movements. So what happens is that the movement of the tongue and the vocal cords is a fine motor skill that takes longer for the children to develop, whereas the movement of hands and making signs, which is a large motor skill, is actually developed faster. Okay, so they learn how to manipulate their hands because before they use their vocal cords correctly. And did you notice here in this video, again I'm going to play some more. Wow, you're already singing. I don't know if you can notice, but this baby is producing sounds that correspond to the English language because he's probably, learning English from his parents or her parents, and so she's producing English language sounds. Each language has a particular set of sounds, all right? And at this stage, yeah, so John Grover, when he was called Collie Pocky in the movie The Other Side of Heaven, when he was in his mission, they couldn't say Grover, so it was Collie Pocky. So each language has a specific set of sounds. And at this stage, at the jabbering stage of development, the child learns to produce those sounds, and they actually forget or lose the ability to produce other sounds. So when a child is born, before this stage happens, a child could produce over 300 sounds. Okay, over 300 sounds. As soon as they start learning, developing a language, okay, their first language, then they are going to narrow down the production of sounds to those of that language, okay? So, for example, English has, I think, like about 76, 79 sounds. Chinese has about 120 sounds, all right? They have a lot more sounds because of the tones. Spanish has a different set of about 60 sounds, okay? And each language has a particular set of sounds. And so when you learn that language, you are able to produce those sounds, and then you almost literally lose the capability of producing the other sounds. That is the reason why even after half of my life being here in the United States, I still speak with an accent, because I learned English after I lose my capability of producing some of the English sounds, and so I'm stuck, okay, in that. Mm-hmm. So Annika says that is why it is a great idea to talk to babies in a different language. I have friends who can speak Russian, German, and English perfectly because they were taught when they were babies. It was really cool to hear them talk to each other. That is absolutely right. It's very, very important if you want to develop multilingual capabilities and you have the opportunity, is to immerse the child, the baby, as early as possible in as many languages as possible. And the interesting thing is that babies and children never confuse the language. For some reason, they are able to develop and compartmentalize what language is which. Okay, and so they are able to really do that very well. For example, um, when my oldest son was born, okay, my first children were born, I spoke to them almost always in Spanish. All the time I spoke Spanish to them, and my wife spoke in English to them. So they really were able to learn Spanish very well. I remember that my oldest son, he would many times jokingly say, he would say, and he was very young, he was about probably 2.5, 3 years old, and he would say, "I can speak Spanish, no." And he would laugh and laugh. He realized, he knew that no was different than no. And he knew that one was the Spanish no, the no that I said, and the other one was the English no. And he had a lot of fun because he showed, and he found it very funny that he could distinguish between one and the other. And he didn't speak a lot of Spanish, but he understood everything that I said. Okay, so I saw an AFV, I don't know what, and a little girl could count in 2 different languages, but not in English. Okay, that's interesting. So, but it's important that if you want to actually teach children natively a language, to start as early as possible. And of course, if you want to learn later on, okay, start also as early as possible. It's never too late, really. But learning a different language later on requires a different set of skills. So let's see now this baby and what a stage of development she is.
Where's your doggy? Huh? Doggy. Doggy.
Okay, so now we are at the stage where the baby starts saying between 12 and 15 months old, okay, is when the babies start saying single words, and they are able to speak single word sentences. Okay, so let me see some of the comments. Benjamin, my cousin couldn't speak English when he was young, and he and his brother made up his own language, and it sounded like dolphins. That is interesting. I would love to know how was it that they couldn't speak English. What was were they isolated where they grew up, or what was the deal? So Annika says, one of my brothers was born in Finland. We use some Finnish to keep it in the vocabulary. So for a while, he would only respond to the ones in Finnish. It was very cool. Yeah. So now I have a question for Annika and Sam, especially that have a lot of international experience. Is it enough to live in a different country in order to learn the language? Is living in a different country enough to actually learn the language? Emma comments, my baby sister is almost done with phase 4, but she can string together some simple sentences. That's right. So the 5th phase is when the children start, putting sentences together. And it's really, really interesting how that kind of develops all of a sudden, really. It is really interesting. Sam says yes and no. Okay, I would love to get more explanation on that. All right. Ronnie says, yeah, I use Finnish all the time in wood to make sure that the wood does not go bad. No, that is not the Finnish. Oh, Rodney, come on. Finnish from Finland, not Finnish in paint. All right. Doing play on words. That is another level of using the language. Really, you have different levels of understanding. So at the beginning, for example, when I was learning English, for me the first stage was to learn how to read. Okay, it was easier for me to read than anything else. Then I could develop my listening comprehension and understand. Then I started being able to write simple sentences, but write. Then I was able to start speaking and making more sense and everything until I was able to start expressing myself. But I found out that some of the later stages of language development come when you are able to understand humor, when you are able to understand sarcasm and double meaning, play on words, okay? Those type of nuances of the language that are really what divide, the really fluency from actually being able to use the language. Okay, so let's see. So don't worry, Emma, if you are learning some, okay, Latin and French, excellent. Okay, we all have to start somewhere in order to start learning. Okay, so Sam says you can adapt to what people are saying, but it is hard for me to pick up a language if I don't have an actual class on it. That's right. So the older you are, the more that you need to actually be taught the language. Annika, no, my mom has trouble, but my dad and I have no problem. He speaks Finnish really well, and I learn pretty fast when I can hear a native speak it. Okay, great, excellent. They say that the only people who can speak Finnish well are Finnish babies, LDS missionaries, and my dad. Wow, that is great. That is a great compliment for your dad to be able to learn Finnish. It's a very difficult and different language. I couldn't sound out vowels or really any sound, so my mom just helped me sing the words and sounds, and until I click. Okay, all right. He seems like the exception, kind of funny. Yes, probably also it had to do with the type of work that he was doing, that he probably actually was required to be able to develop good communication skills and everything in the language. So he kind of forced himself to do that. All right. So the last phase, of course, of language development is when children start speaking fluently and start putting everything together and developing their own ideas and thoughts and so on. Okay, it is learning a second language is a very important and helpful skill. All right. It is not easy, but it is worthwhile. Also, the interesting thing, Alec and Natalie are learning Spanish. Excellent. Okay, I felicitaciones. So I really think that it's very important to learn another language. And the interesting thing is that once you learn a second language, learning a third and a fourth language becomes easier, really. So it really helps you to develop, okay, the way that you think. So, okay, so your father says that he had a class one-on-one and for like 3 to 6 months, okay, that's it. He was in consul work and visas. Okay, very good. ¿Cómo está? Muy bien, muchas gracias. So, here in Wikipedia also, I have the article on language family, okay? And so languages are kind of related. Different languages have a common origin, that could be traced and studied, and that is one of the disciplines of linguistics, okay? So linguists are the people that study the development of different languages. And here we have a map of the language families of the world. So these are not individual languages, they are language families. Okay, which language family is the most prevalent in the world? Okay, I don't know if you can see that correctly. Okay. Portuguese. Okay, yeah. So which of the language families is the most prevalent in the world? So Natasha, you have relatives that know Spanish. Rodney says Latin-based language. Emma says Indo-European languages. That's right. So Latin is one of the Indo-European languages. So this little green color, okay, corresponds here to this entry here, Indo-European. So Indo-European actually is the largest family of languages. It includes all the Latin languages, the Germanic languages, Slavic languages, so lots of languages derive from here. Most of the Hindu languages are also Indo-European. The same with Farsi, the Iranian languages, and so on. So you can see, the huge influence of Indo-European languages in the world. Okay, of course, most of the Americas. Then I would say that probably the second largest, or probably the first largest, depending on the number of people that speak it, would be the Sino-Tibetan language, right? All the languages here of China, all right, that are related to Chinese, okay? And then you have also the languages, the family of Afro-Asiatic languages, the orange color, and the Congo-Niger family of languages, the dark green color in here. Okay. Mm, uh, that's right. So Annika says it's really interesting. She says, I could tell you were Argentinian when you spoke in Spanish. Every Spanish-speaking countries have different accents and mannerisms. Santa Cruz here is even way different from La Paz. Okay, and that is kind of one of the things that I wanted to point out, and why is language related to geography. Okay, so people would be asking, why are we studying this issue of languages and geography? Well, precisely it's because the geography and the geographical movements of people and culture, the geographical barriers of places affect what languages people speak. All right, so you have here, for example, in Latin America, that the Andes mountains, they are very, very high mountains here in the Andes, they make a huge difference in which language are developed and associated. And you see that there are several different, even families of languages, because they are separated by jungles, by mountains, and so on, so much that even in Bolivia, you have that some people speak, Aymara in the Altiplano, and others speak more of a different Portuñol mix in the Santa Cruz area, and different accents. So, yeah, Natasha, you are very kind if you say you didn't know I spoke Spanish. Okay. Or you are pulling my leg. I think you are pulling my leg on that. Okay. So, in the next lessons, we are going to talk more about the origin of languages and how these languages came to be. But I wanted to finish by bringing here in the guide to the scriptures the article on languages, okay, from the scriptures. And it basically tells us that in the beginning, when God created the earth was of one language. That is what we are told in the scriptures. And then the Lord was the one that confounded the languages of all the earth on the Tower of Babel story. Okay. And the Lord speaks to men in their own language. I certainly can testify of that. I have heard, the voice of the Spirit of God in Spanish talking to me, and I've also heard the voice of the Spirit in English. So at least those two are certainly there. Okay. So I know that the Lord speaks to people in their own language, and so everyone can understand. That is also one of the things that we are commanded. We are commanded to teach the gospel to people in their own language. So that is why we learn languages when we go on missions. Okay, even though it's hard, it is very time consuming and difficult, but it is the best way of communicating the gospel, is because we want the Spirit of the Lord to be able to speak to people in their own language. And so we want also to preach the gospel in their own language. So let's see, Madeline, you say, my teachers used to say Spanish prayers and we didn't understand what he said, but we felt the Spirit. That's great. Okay. Still, myself, I pray when I say my personal prayers, I pray in Spanish. Annika, thank you for saying that my English is good. Okay. All right. Yeah, I still have a lot to do to improve. So Annika says, you too, Russian too. The gospel is to go out to every nation and every language. It makes all the difference for some people when they can understand the true meaning of it in their language. So, Natasha, you have Mexican friends that they would also pray in Spanish. It's amazing, really, how many times you feel so much closer depending on which language you use. There are some things that you can express in one language that you cannot really say exactly the same in a different language. Okay? And the scriptures also tell us that Adam and his children had a language which was pure and undefiled. So the Adamic language, the original language, was pure and undefiled. I would love to be able to learn again to speak Adamic language and being able to communicate that way. Okay, so languages really are important because they really convey different things. For example, there's one word in Spanish. Okay, I'm going to type it in the chat that doesn't have a specific translation in English, the word animo. Okay, so I remember when I was in my mission, we would use this word a lot. It means kind of eagerness or being enthusiastic about something. But animo doesn't, it conveys even more than that. Okay, so there's not a proper way of translating the word animo into English. So I remember some missionaries saying, I don't know what I'm going to do when I go back to the States, that I won't be able to use the word animo. Okay. Annika says, Natasha, you said I've never heard that word. You can ask your aunt and grandma about that word, animo, okay, and what it means. Annika says there are some words in other languages that just don't have translations. I love that word and so many others. That's right, yes. So, Benjamin, you say like aloha, all right? In Hawaiian, aloha is a very, very common greeting. Does it mean more than hello? Does it in Hawaiian, does it convey a different meaning than hello, or it is just hello? Okay, that is what I would like to know, because really there are most words, they do translate pretty close from one language to the other, but there are some that are not. There are some words that I just totally forget in English sometimes. Yes, it happens to me also in Spanish. Okay, so your grandma Natasha was born in Texas, so she may know about that. In fact, in Texas there is one city called Animas. Okay, that is a different word actually. It means souls, like the ghost of, like the Holy Ghost. Okay, all right. So that would be the Animas, but animo is kind of a feeling, all right, of enthusiasm and eagerness that you could have. Okay. All right. So the assignment for this lesson, as we were talking before about assignments and everything, let me go over that really, really fast. Okay. So I have a couple of assignments. I think that they are kind of fun. One is the activity is, with the help of friends, family, and online tools, learn to say thank you or something else or some simple phrase in as many languages as possible. And then you can record a video of you saying this phrase in all the languages that you've learned. Okay? I think that would be fun to say something like thank you. So Benjamin says that aloha means hello, goodbye, I love you, and some more things I don't know. Okay, I didn't know that. I didn't know that aloha also meant goodbye and express love and everything. So In Finnish, there is the word sisu that generally means grit, but it is so different when you hear the definition of it in Finnish. It is just one of those words. That's right. Every language has one of those words. Okay. So I want you and also aloha means thank you. Wow, that is interesting. So learn how to say thank you in as many languages as you can. The other assignment would be to write a report comparing the language development skills of 3 children at different stages of language development. Okay, describe what stage they are in, how they communicate, what they are learning. So you could probably, have some younger siblings, okay, neighborhood kids or nursery kids, and observe and describe their language development stage and their skills. Konnichiwa, and to everyone, thank you very, very much. Let's finish the class with a prayer. And who would like to say a prayer in English? Or would you like me to say a prayer in Spanish? Would that be okay? Merci. Sí, yeah, okay. So I'm going to finish today the class with praying in Spanish, okay? So let's do that. Nuestro Padre Celestial, te damos gracias, Padre, por este hermoso día y por la oportunidad que hemos tenido de tener esta clase de geografía. Te damos gracias por los lenguajes que nos has dado para poder comunicarnos y te pedimos que podamos aprender más acerca de esto y de muchas cosas, todas las cosas que has creado. Te damos gracias por la oportunidad de estar juntos en línea en esta clase. Bendice a los estudiantes para que puedan completar sus asignaciones. Y decimos estas cosas pidiéndote que el Espíritu Santo nos acompañe y bendice al profeta, al presidente Monson. En el nombre de Jesucristo. Amén.
Amen.
Okay.
I have a question, Mr. Bobby.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
On the lessons, you send us the links to the American Heritage Family School page.
Uh-huh.
But it won't let me get on though.
I just found out that is correct. That you many of you don't have access to it, and we are going to correct that. Okay, so probably next week, okay, you are going to have access to it. All right, but thank you for asking. Good.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much for everyone for participating, and thank you for letting me pray in Spanish. It was great, very fun. So, Natasha, I didn't understand any of it again. Well, thank you anyways. Adios.